Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 486. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarn and patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, August 12th, and we are already halfway through August. I hope that you are doing well. I have had a brief break. It's been 2 weeks since my last podcast. I had a trip to see some family, which was lovely, and I had lots of crafty pursuits, some of which I am able to share with you today. So I hope that you are doing well. It is a hot day here in the Midwest after a brief respite the past couple days. We've only been up in the 70s. I actually went out and did my exercise outside yesterday, which was lovely. We've had some rain. And so we are gearing up probably for the last big hot blast for August and into September. And I have started to feel a little bit of that turning the corner into fall. Last Friday, or this past Friday, it was maybe 72, 73 degrees here. And a whole bunch of new fall sweater patterns hit the interwebs. I saw them on Instagram and then also on Ravelry, and I thought, oh, I'm not quite there yet, but fall sweater weather is coming. It is going to get cooler again, and all the knitting that comes with it. So so that is kind of exciting. I'm definitely ready for a change in season. Summer is not my favorite. I was going to say summer is not my favorite month. Summer is not my favorite season because it is just hot and uncomfortable. But I do love the weather changing and woolly sweaters and all kinds of things. So I hope that you are doing well and that you are staying healthy. We had kind of a bit of a near miss. We went to Chicago last weekend. So the first full weekend in August, we were in Chicago, the 2nd to the 5th, and my parents came out and we saw the kids, and we actually had a really good time. My nephew is really at the age now where he is definitely a person, and I had some really great conversations with him. He definitely is still a kid, and there are some issues there, but I just had a really good time with him. When I say we had a near miss, it's because on Sunday, my sister woke up not feeling that great, and she took a test and was negative for COVID. And we all hung out all day on Sunday, and then on Monday, she woke up feeling worse and took another test and was positive for COVID. And so we had all been hanging out, and luckily we are all vaccinated. And so my sister and my nephew turned up with COVID on Monday and Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, my niece and my brother-in-law got COVID, and so my parents and I were keeping our fingers crossed. I was not terribly worried for Wes and me. I mean, I didn't really want to get it, but I wasn't terribly worried. Both of my parents are getting towards 80 at this point, and so I was not very thrilled with the idea that they were going to get it. Somehow, I think, knock on wood, we have managed to escape it. We're on day 8. Day 9 actually, because the last time we saw them was last Sunday, and then today's Monday. So I think we've all escaped, and I don't know how, because like the kids were sick and we were with them and everybody hugged and everybody shared meals, and I don't know, but through some modern miracle. So mask, take your tests, be aware, it is back for the fall, and my hope is that I want to get a flu vaccine soon with the booster in it. So, but we are healthy, and this past week I just did a lot of catching up and some crafting. So let's talk about what we did. I will start with, I'm drinking coffee today. I know it's not tea. I'm drinking it in my Hershey's mug, and it is my very favorite. It's from the roastery. You can barely see it, but I don't want to spill it. It's from the roastery, and it is a French vanilla caramel cream, and it is absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite coffees that they do. It's Kansas City roastery. That they're called The Roastery, and it's a Kansas City coffee company, and I needed a cup of something warm and a little caffeine, and so I grabbed coffee today. So today I have knitting. I have 2 seconds of talk about spinning, and then I have sewing, and then I have a new craft, which is not going to be a recurring craft. I say that with a laugh, but it's not going to be a recurring craft, but I thought it would make for some interesting discussion. So for the past couple weeks, I've been knitting chicken pieces for the City Girl Farm, but I've also been working a little bit on my sweater. Progress report on my arm. I am back in physical therapy for my tendinitis. It is definitely not gone. It's feeling a little bit better. I've also decided that I am going to start doing just a little bit of crafting because I can't stand standing still and waiting. And so I am doing a few rows here and there. I'm trying not to tax it, but I am doing a few things. So I am currently working on the Hipster Tee. It is a pattern by Joji Locatelli. It is sort of another iteration on her Hipster Shawl, which had some kind of signature loops and crossing of loops, so a little bit like cables, but not quite. And she turned it into a tee pattern, and I was all about the tees earlier this summer. And so I am knitting, it's basically a 2-color striped tee with some interesting details at the shoulders, which is really how I would describe it. I am using my friend Treasure Goddess Christine's yarn, and I have the label here. It is Treasure Goddess, and it's Treasured Yak Toes Sock, which is 70% superwash merino wool, 20% black, 20% yak, 10% nylon, and it's 100 grams, 437 yards. So this is the label from Treasure Goddess, and I am using the colorway From the Depths She Rose and Song of the Sirens. So these are the two colors. I've knit a sweater in this burgundy before. I love this burgundy of hers, but this one is kind of new. And so I've actually made quite a bit of progress. The last time I talked to you about the sweater, I had been working on the front, and the front is a V-neck. This is a really inventive top that is basically zero seaming, which is really neat. You're kind of doing provisional cast-ons and picking up at different places and joining. And so I had done the first front, and so I got fairly far into it. I am knitting per pattern, except for one modification that I'm making, is I am not making the front V-neck quite as deep as it is in the pattern. And so it's going to be sort of a cross between a V and a scoop neck, and so I'm working on that now. So I have the front, and then I flipped around and I worked on the back side, which is exactly what I'm supposed to do. So the back is complete, and then I flipped it back around and I'm working on the other front. This time this is the right front, and so I finished the, this is the shoulder detail. This is what looks like her hipster shawl with the crossovers, and then I will be working down the front V, and then it will be just about time to join them in the round. So I actually have made okay, if I were going by my old progress meter, I would say that I have not made a lot of progress because I haven't done that much. But my goal is to do 8 rows a day. So when I say the back took me quite a bit because it is, I think, 16 rows of each color, and I did it, or 16 stripes of each color. The stripes are 2 rows, and I did it 8 rows at a time. So it is slow going, but it is what my arm can handle, and it makes me pleased to see progress. And within a week, I can knit a few inches, and so that is enough to sort of keep me back into it. So that is what I'm working on right now. I hope by the time I come to you next, I will have a joined in the round. Basically, I need to knit this other front piece, and then I need to join the 2 fronts, and I'll do a few rows there. Normally I wouldn't if I were knitting the pattern as written, but because I am shortening the V-neck a little bit, I'm adding a little bit more to the front, and then I will just join in the round, and then it will be in the round till the end. And it will just be this straight pattern. So I am very excited about this. I'm still hoping that I might be able to get it done by the end of August. That might not be a possibility, but it still stays warm here into September. So I think I should be okay. So we're just gonna see. So that is the knitting progress. Again, not a lot, but forward direction, so I'll take it. Spinning, I'm just going to say 2 words, which is I actually started spinning again. I went for Nymph, which is I believe it's a gray organic merino. It was a club colorway from Hello Yarn, and it's got reds and pinks and purples and some browns and then a little bit of gray, and it's dyed on a darker merino, so it looks kind of moody. You can see kind of the darker bits in here. The mixed merino is it's white and gray in there, and so it takes the dye really nicely. I don't have a lot to report. I am spinning about 15 minutes a day. For those of you keeping up with me, I re-injured my arm during the Tour de Fleece when I was spinning like upwards of an hour a day, and I wasn't used to it. So like with the knitting, I decided that I am just going to do a little bit of it each day and work towards kind of building my strength back up. So I've been doing between 10 and 15 minutes of spinning a day and then knitting my 8 rows. And that is my kind of primary crafting time of the crafts that I absolutely love and also aggravate the injury. So in the off time, I have been spending some time sewing, which, as I've said, does not aggravate my arm as much. So I have 2 things to show you. The first is that I finished the quilt that I was working on. I had finished machine quilting it when we last met, and I said I was waiting to do the binding, and I ended up actually doing the binding before we left because I needed something that I could work on, but I finished the binding, and so now all that's left is for me to wash it, and then it will be ready to donate. And I believe this quilt is around 40 by 40 or 42 by 42. It is roughly square, and it is just a jelly roll strip quilt that I went ahead and sewed the strips together, and then I machine quilted it. And it's got the same backing as the other quilt, which is just this fun stripey, and then I also used the stripey as my binding. So it's just a big square quilt with farm animals. I made this to donate to a child's cause, and I'm going to find another one. So it is all kinds of cats and dogs and farm animals, sheep and bees and puppy paws and just all kinds of things. And I started these in April and then got injured, and so I did not finish them in time to go to the original cause. And I don't know whether they're going to go to Project Linus or exactly where they're going to go, but I have 2. They're slightly different shapes and sizes. It's a long story. I tried to do a variety of things, and everywhere takes a slightly different shape and size of quilt. But the second one is done, so that's a set of 2 that I can send off to a local charity, and I'm very, very pleased about that. So then I started or went back to another quilt that I had been working on for myself, and that was a red and white quilt, and I finished sewing together the top. I think the last time I showed it to you, it was chain pieced, which it was sewn together in rows, but I had not sewn the rows together themselves, or it might have just been like a whole bunch of different blocks. I can't remember entirely. It was kind of a mess and all over the place, and I had to clean it up this week. I also had to pull a few things out because I had turned the squares the wrong way, and so they were not in pattern. And I will say what I learned from this is that precision is good, and I am not precise. And so next time I definitely should spend more time trimming and making sure that everything is precise. But overall, I am pretty pleased with this top, and it is now ready to quilt. So this is the top that I made, and it is made with red and white fabric. It is from Henry Glass, and they're red and cream fabrics, and white and cream fabrics, and then red and burgundy fabrics. And I used an around the world pattern, but to make it a little bit more modern feeling, I went ahead and did it off center. So you can see it's a 9 by 9, which means theoretically it should be 45 by 40. Sorry, no, it should be it's 9 blocks by 9 blocks, and the blocks should be 4.5 inches, so that's 36 and 4.5, so it should be 40.5 by 40.5. That would be if I had 100% accurate 1/4 inch seams, and I am positive that I do not, so my guess is this will be right around 40 by 40, and this is what I have. I will tell you, I am not very precise. I wish I were more precise, but I am not very precise. So there are plenty of things about this quilt that are not perfect, and I am okay with that. Overall, I think it came out okay. I think from where I stood back and showed you, from that level, I think it looks fine. It's just when you start to look closer, as you do as a crafter, when you know things, it is not perfect. For instance, I'll just show you like some areas you can see where the points are not exact. where they don't exactly meet up exactly as they should, where I didn't get my 4 patches together quite right. Like here you can see this one's just a little bit further over than that one. So there are lots of little mistakes, but I don't think it's too bad for a first try at this. Definitely improvement needed, and we'll spend more time at that. But so I now get to decide how to quilt this. I have some cream colored thread, and I have a green backing. I think I was gonna maybe think about loosely making this a holiday quilt in red and white. It's very traditional. It's not necessarily holiday. It's not holiday fabric, but I bought some like a pine green background, and I thought maybe I would do that and then just do the pine green at the edges and for binding. And my thought was that maybe I would just use this as a holiday wall hanging. And so it's growing on me. The fabric itself was from Henry Glass. It's called Memories of Redwork or something like that. And I am not entirely sure. It's definitely kind of a vintagey and like farm chic feel, and that's definitely not me, but it does have some cool patterns on it. Like these remind me of jacks, like playing jacks, and there are lots of flowers and horseshoes and just all kinds of interesting things. Anyway, I wasn't precisely sure. Well, okay, I'm not precisely sure how I want to quilt this, but I'm gonna free motion quilt it, probably just loops and swirls, or maybe I can't decide. I do not want to do, I've decided that straight line quilting is going to be a little complicated for me, and because not all my diagonals line up perfectly, that would not be the way to go, because I think it will just make the fact that if the blocks do not match, it will make it stand out more. So I think I'm just going to do some kind of design on there, some kind of free motion, kind of meandering design, and call it good. So that is what I'll work on in the next couple weeks, but that is the progress that I have made since I have seen you. So the final thing I thought I would share with you this week is I decided to take a class this past weekend, and it was on something that I really do not think is going to become another hobby of mine. It was very interesting. I had a great time. But I just don't think it's going to be another craft that I spend a lot of time in. But I took a journal making class, and it was really fun. It was taught by someone local to me, actually at my friend Christine Treasure Goddess's barn, which is just a few miles from my house. And it was a local textile artist in our fiber guild who has gotten very into bookmaking. And she has vended at quite a few of our local events, and she's also getting ready to set up an Etsy shop. And she is making books with fabric and cork and faux leather covers and leather covers. And then she's also creating the pages to go inside. And so it was a class to learn how to make a small journal. So here is my journal. And she provided most of the supplies. The only thing I provided here was the button. She asked if you had a special button, and I had a leftover button from a craft that I think I made a calorimetry, which is a knitty pattern. It's a headband, and I had used the other button for that, and this has been sitting in my stash ever since. And you know, one really big purple button, what are you gonna do with it? But I found a use for it. So she provided the cork, which this is cork. It's kind of a fabric. It is cork on one side, and then it has like a canvas on the other side. So it is definitely fabric that you can see here, and it's pliable, but it's also nice and sturdy. And the leather and faux leather was the same way. And you can get these supplies at bag making stores. I know Missouri Star sells them, and we work with Sally Tomato, which is a bag pattern and design company, and so they sell all kinds of supplies like that. So we got a piece of cork that she had actually cut holes into where we needed to place the stitching for the journal. And then the other thing that she brought us was she brought us signatures, which are little booklets of paper. And she brought us these booklets of paper, and she had them cut and folded down to size, and then she had let them rest under something heavy overnight so that they were well folded. So the first thing she had us do was she brought some origami paper so that we could create kind of dividers between our booklets. And I chose this one for my first section, and then I chose a plain pink for the second section, and then for the third section I chose this kind of blue, and I liked the three of them together. And so the first thing we did was we kind of got the origami paper folded and in line with the other, with the signatures in the books. And then we took an awl, which is a pointy tool, and we used, typically you would use something that's called a cradle, but what we were using were like shipping catalogs, the Uline catalog, or any other of the really big catalogs, or a phone book. And basically you place the paper signatures kind of into the crease in the book, and you take the awl, you mark where you want your holes to be so that they'll be in line with these holes here, and then you take the awl and you poke it through the paper. And so we did that for each of the 3 signatures. Signatures are the groups of paper here, so you can see we had 3 little booklets. Each of those booklets is called a signature. So then we started with the center signature, and we started sewing the sewing the paper into the cover. And we used waxed linen thread for this. The thread is waxed in beeswax, and it makes it so that it's kind of stiff and it sort of sticks together. It's quite sturdy. It doesn't have the pull of like yarn or something else where you might have like a little give to it. It's very, very sturdy. And so then we sewed in the different signatures, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing because I don't want to give away the whole secret sauce to the class. But so we sewed in the whole thing so that we had everything sewn up through the spine, and then we left the remainder of our cord there to sort of wrap at the journal. I sewed my button on, and then we folded it into thirds, and then you can use the cord to wrap around the journal a couple times and then around the button. And she gave us a bead to put on the bottom. So that is my journal. It wasn't terribly hard. It was more of an assembly class than anything else, but we learned about all the tools and everything that it takes. And it was fun, and I'll be honest, the reason that I don't see myself getting into this craft is primarily the paper. I'm not interested in cutting and folding the paper down. I do have a place that technically I could probably get it. I have a friend who's a printer, and I probably could take some of his offcuts and or pay him to cut some for me and pay for the paper. But in general, like the process of sewing on the cover and sort of creating the other stuff was kind of fun. But I don't know that this is going to be like a huge passion of mine, but it is kind of fun. It's a neat journal. I think it would make a great gift. And it was a super fun class. It was about a 2.5-hour class, and we had muffins and mimosas and talked, and there were 6 or 8 other people there, and so we just got to kind of sit and play, and she had tons of options, tons of colors of thread, tons of different covers, tons of origami paper, so it was just kind of fun to get to play and pick what we wanted. So that is a new to me bookmaking craft, but I don't think not what I'm going to get into the way I have gotten into the other crafts. So I hope that you are doing well. I hope you've had a good couple weeks, and I think I'm actually going to sign off for today because I have some work that I need to get done. It is my lunch hour, and I have lots of things that I need to get back to and some messages that I need to answer. But thank you for hanging out with me today. Like I said, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying healthy and enjoying crafting and ready for the change in seasons, because I know I am. So I will say until I see you again, happy knitting, happy spinning, quilting, embroidery, bookmaking, quilting, and happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.